What's up in War Eagle War Report family? You got Ike Jones back with another morning drop. And today we are talking about the safety position for Auburn. What does Auburn have in that room that's going to be available to play for him this coming up season? Let's talk about it. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report.
Morning drop right here on the Auburn Express, brought to you, powered by the War Report Podcast Network, and sponsored by the folks over at Rogue Shop. Make sure you head over to rogueshop.com using code REPORT when you do get a little something off on America's #1 online dispensary. You got Ike Jones in here once again on a Wednesday morning, August the 14th. Talking a little Auburn football, specifically talking about the position of safety for Auburn, continuing our position group breakdowns. If you don't know, the rest of those are already up on the channel in some form or fashion. You guys can check that out. But this is the last defensive group that we have to break down. That's the position of safety. And this is the position that I've been clear that this is the one I know the least about as far as productivity of what you can expect on the field, because this is the position that hasn't really had a lot of snaps available out there to view. So when we look at this room, we look at one that I expect to have a pretty intense competition for this fall coming up, just because there's so much talent there, but so little experience, particularly in the SEC, right? Like Jaron Thompson and Caleb Wooden are the only guys that have played significant snaps from this group. And, Caleb has played sparing minutes so far in his time here at Auburn. And Jaron Thompson, though he has the experience from Texas, he didn't play a ton of snaps there at Texas. But let's take a look at the room as it stands right now and the players that are available to be out there for Auburn. We can look at all of the people who left from this room. A lot of talent transferred out or graduated. You talk about Donovan Kaufman. That's a guy who, listen, he was going to play some minutes for Auburn this season, whether it was at the nickelbacker or at the safety position. He transferred out to New Mexico State. Austin Osbury left and never really got a chance to see what Austin Osbury was about in an Auburn uniform. He didn't get very many opportunities to play. And so he has now exited the program via the transfer portal. Zion Puckett, the most experienced guy from that room, also exited, graduated, and made it onto an NFL. Well, still yet to be seen whether or not he makes the roster, but he did at least get an opportunity to go make a roster, and is out there playing for in the preseason right now. Marquise Gilbert, another guy that came in really highly sought after out of junior college when he came into Auburn. He was the #1 JUCO safety transferring into Auburn that season, #1 JUCO safety transfer available that season, and transferred into Auburn. Never really got a lot of opportunities out there on the field. He is no longer there. And of course, the standout safety from that room, Jalen Simpson, left via the draft this past offseason. So those guys, there are a couple of starters right there that are not available as far as that could have played, right? Jalen Simpson had another year of eligibility. He could have come back for Auburn. Donovan Kaufman definitely could have stayed at Auburn and gotten some playing time, but both left for what they assumed to be greener pastures. And again, Marquise Gilbert is another guy who I thought was going to be able to step up and be available this year. Did not happen. But let's talk about the guys that are here, right? Let's major on the ones that are definitely going to be at Auburn this fall. We'll start it off with the sophomore Terrence Love. Terrence Love, a guy who really is kind of, as far as his build is concerned, more of a hybrid safety. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about some of these guys in the addition space. But he's a guy that was initially going to be tabbed as kind of this hybrid linebacker safety, a box safety kind of guy. It's going to be interesting to see how much playing time he's able to garner and how they're going to rotate these safeties this year to get him. Sylvester Smith, another one of those guys that came in last year during that good defensive class that was brought in. He's another guy that is expected to be kind of a box safety kind of guy. Initially was committed to Tennessee, ended up flipping his commitment over to Auburn. Caleb Wooden, recently when players had an opportunity to speak with the media, Caleb Wooden is a guy who was brought up as someone who is kind of a leader in that safety room. And he is one of the more senior players there, as I mentioned before, having really the only SEC experience out of this group with significant playing time. I mean, Griffin Speaks played a little bit, but it wasn't very much during SEC play, but he did get an opportunity to play last season. But really the only guy that has had any experience during the SEC season on this roster is Caleb Wooden. Mac McClinton doesn't figure to doesn't really look like he's going to factor very much into this race as of right now. CJ Johnson, another guy that was a talented freshman brought in last year. I expect him to be available, probably going to be more of a rotational guy out there for special teams this season for Auburn, but I do like what CJ Johnson brings to the team. Paul Thompson, another guy that's more of a walk-on. Josh Cohen, Rod Elston, and the aforementioned Griffin Speaks, who came over from Baylor last year. And he's a hometown guy, and hopefully he'll get his opportunities to go out there and contribute in some way to Auburn. You talk about the additions to this room, though, the new guys. Laquan Robinson, another guy that came over as a JUCO transfer. He is another guy that I think will have an opportunity to really compete when we start looking at the two deep, the depth charts that are going to be out there. Laquan Robinson is a guy that I expect to be potentially out there with that two deep in the safety room. Caleb Harris. I said I was going to come back to the thing when I mentioned with Terrence Love about kind of this hybrid linebacker safety thing. Caleb Harris is a guy, if I'm not mistaken, that has been moved over to the linebacker room. So he is looking to play more at linebacker right now than he is at the safety position. So it's going to be interesting for him to see kind of where he fits into this whole situation. The true freshman coming in definitely plays big and behind his pad. So it's going to be interesting to see what Caleb Harris does. Then you get the true freshman Kinsley Lador Faustin. He's another one of the dynamic freshmen that was a part of this last recruiting class, along with Amon Lane Gaines. I'm going to come back to Jaron Thompson there, but Amon did not come in during the during the spring. So he's just getting around during the summer. I really expect those two guys to redshirt this season. I don't see them playing a lot of minutes unless there are injuries. I think that they're going to need some time to really develop and get into this system and figure out what's going to be happening. Plus, there's just more experience in front of them. Gray Rebels and Elias Williams, both guys that I'm not really sure how they're going to factor into the race. And I haven't heard a lot about them, so I don't have a lot to say about those guys. But the two that I have not mentioned on here, Jaron Thompson, Antoine Fegans Jr. Antoine Fegans Jr., the recent transfer over, and as a guy that expects to be able to come in and compete for one of those starting positions. So when I look at this list and I look at guys that are likely going to be contributors or competing to come in, Sylvester Smith is a guy who has been getting a lot of attention. Terrence Love is a guy who's been getting a lot of attention as far as younger guys that could factor in. Caleb Wooden, Laquan Robinson, Jaron Thompson, and Antoine Fegans Jr. I think that's where your race is for those two safety spots between those 5 guys that I just mentioned there. 6 guys, excuse me, that I just mentioned. Those are the guys that I expect to rotate in most frequently for potentially playing for those two safety spots in this defense. And I think it's going to be one of the more hotly contested battles. It's something I think that's going to go really up until the first couple of weeks of the season to see who's actually playing well in those first couple of games as to who's going to claim that spot. So looking forward to seeing how the safety rotation happens with this defense and who is able to step up. Jaron Thompson, of course, has already been tabbed as one of the vocal leaders of that group. So I expect him to really get a lion's share of those minutes. But I'm looking forward to seeing who is going to be playing behind him and who's going to rotate in with him as well. Before we get over into more of this conversation, definitely need to give a quick shout out to our folks over at Joy Mode. Make sure that you all who are looking for top performances, not just for safety, but in your bedroom life, make sure you head over to usejoymode.com. Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into that bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. What the problem is, sometimes our thoughts get in the way of our performance, and maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. That's where our friends at Joy Mode come in. Imagine a supplement you can take like your favorite greens packet that gives you that extra dose of confidence and saves you the embarrassment and hassle of a traditional erection pill. When combined with a healthy diet, good sleep, and exercise, you will greatly improve your cardiovascular health as well, because this allows for your cardiovascular system to pump blood more seamlessly and effectively to areas of your body that need it, whether it's during workouts, sexual activity, or regular daily exertion. Redefine your intimacy and go to usejoymode.com for 20% off, well, plus free shipping. Use code rapport when you're there, and you can make sure that you are taking advantage of this great offer. Again, usejoymode.com. Thank them for being sponsors of the War Report. As far as um, performance out there on the field, this is a group that's going to have high expectations. If you guys have seen the video breakdown that I did on DJ Durkin's defense, Green Name Gang, check in right there. We do have some DJ Durkin film out there. You'll notice during that breakdown that I talk about how often DJ Durkin wants to play a single high safety and how much depth he requires for that safety to be able to play at, giving a lot of space in the middle of the field because they want to be able to have guys down in the box to be able to be against the run, have extra hats down in the box, but also be able to confuse the coverages and looks that the offense is going to be able to see. So they don't know where the blitzes are coming from or where they're going to rotate late with people playing like a deep, whether it's going to be a cover one or they're going to rotate into a third or they're going to bring one of those safeties back as a robber. Like there's just a lot of things that they want to be able to do to disguise what the coverages are going to be. But it usually comes out of a cover one look with a very deep safety lined up maybe 20, 30 yards back, right? So the safety position is one that is going to really have to understand what's going on, which is why, the communication of Jaron Thompson is going to be ultimately important, but it's also going to be important that whoever that deep safety is rangy, right? Because there's a lot of ground to be able to have to cover, especially if you're playing some sort of cover one, whether you're playing some sort of shade coverage to one side or another, or you're playing a true center field. You're going to have to be able to cover ground quickly and analyze quickly what's happening out in front of you to be able to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to be that backstop for whatever's happening, especially if they're going to be trying to attack on the seams of the defense, or if they're going to try to go, to some deep corners over the top, and you've got to play to one side or the other. So that safety position super crucial. It's crucial in every defense, but it's absolutely going to be crucial in the way that DJ Durkin likes to line those defenses up. And that was really a big thing that some of the Texas A&M defensive backs struggled with last year, was recognizing coverage, and we saw that a little bit for those that were there at the scrimmage in some coverage busts that resulted in big plays of just not understanding how coverage was supposed to be rolled, and that communication between the safety and the other defensive backs about what responsibilities were there on the back end. So going to be super crucial for them to be able to do that. But I like some of the comments that I heard from Sylvester Smith recently when he was addressing the media in regards to the competition that's happening out there at safety. Let's play his comments really quickly, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about that.
I look at it as, at the end of the day, whichever way it goes, me and Caleb both gonna be on the field. And I just take it more so just learning from Caleb. Like, Caleb's played some ball. I haven't really played that much ball in college, so just having Caleb and competing with Caleb every single day, it's made me better. And, made the best man win. Just a lot more confident. I feel like last year, just being a freshman, like, I just got through in that water and, like, it was just sink or swim. And coming back this year, like, I'm just more confident. I'm just more confident.
So again, Sylvester Smith out there addressing the media, and he said the big thing and the big difference for him this year is going to be the confidence in which he's attacking things this season. So, he and some of the other guys that are younger have had to really develop quickly in this new system because it is different than what they were doing last year. We could talk about how Charles Kelly has come in. He even mentioned in his comments there with the media that Charles Kelly was a guy who recruited him out of high school, and he was very comfortable with him. And Charles Kelly's gotten him into a position where he feels really good about what he needs to do this season. And that confidence is something that is going to be absolutely necessary. He also credits guys like Caleb Wooden around him that were getting him in the right mindset of being able to figure out how to prepare himself for games, prepare himself play to play. Like, I think that's something that younger guys really need to be able to adapt to and understand. And he credits guys like Jaron Thompson and Caleb Wooden with getting him into that right mindset in regard to that. So definitely looking forward to what that position battle is going to shape up to be. And as he says in his comments there, Sylvester Smith, may the best man win. So I'm hoping the best man comes out on top there for Auburn this season when it comes to the safety position. But what I want to do is hear from you guys. Who do you feel like is leading in the room for safety for those two positions that are going to be out there for safety. Definitely want to hear your comments. And if you have any of those comments that you would like to tweet at your boy, hit me up, TWR Ike Jones, out there on Twitter. I would definitely love to hear you. But that's it, man. That's all I got for you. Once again, we want to thank the sponsors of today's War Report morning drop, and that is the Rogue Shop, as always, using code REPORT when you go out there and do that, for America's #1 online dispensary. Sleep, stress, pain, anxiety, any of those, you can find relief at rogueshop.com and use code REPORT. Before you get out of here, do the necessary, like the video, subscribe to the channel, go ahead and give us a share on that content. We'll be back at you tonight with the midweek report. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.